what kind of embroidery floss or string for friendship bracelets is the best. And today we're doing a string test. So we're testing 5 kinds of string. Random string from Amazon, Michael's brand, like Loops and Threads, the Hobby Lobby brand, which is on the pack it says Iris, but then it's RTC something, DMC, and JMP, and we're gonna do on 4 different metrics. A water test, a knotting test, how much they cost, and how accessible they are. So
First up is the water test. Well, first I braided each of the individual strings into a 5-inch braid with a knot on each side. Container with water, braids inside, and they lived in there for 15 minutes. I made it, it's like kind of lukewarm, it wasn't cold water. This is simulating having a permanent friendship bracelet on my ankle in the shower. And then take them out, towel dry them.
They actually shrunk quite a bit, which is impressive. I think if it was tied in a knot around, then as it dries it'll stretch, just because it's less strong when it's wet. So, black was the longest at the end in comparison to all of them. It is now just about 4, it's lost about 1/4 of an inch. I know it's hard to tell because it's black. And then the shortest one is green, the Loops and Threads. And that one's actually shrunk a little more than 1/2 inch, which is crazy. Black, then blue, then pink, then orange, and then green. The next test. Alright, I'm cutting 15 inches of each one, and I'm gonna do a little patchwork alpha to compare things like string texture. I'm gonna cut more strings and then set up the alpha. Okay, we've got strings cut, keychain set up. These white strings are base strings. They don't really matter because they're just gonna get knotted over, but we're starting with the random Amazon brand. I don't know if you can just see the fuzz on here. Oh, some things I know already from working with this string, that it's thicker. Like each string is a slightly different thickness, and I know for sure that this one's very thick. So you don't really want to do them all together, because then, then it won't look nice. But the point of this is not to look nice, it is to be scientific. I'm done with this here, and it does like to unwind a little bit at the end. 6 strands, but my one thing with this one is that it's thicker, which would be fine if I could find it in other colors, but I can't. So it's usually fine with normal patterns, but alpha patterns it's very much not, which we will see here shortly. Next is this one, orange. And we can start to see just how much smaller this orange is compared to the black. Generally, I use this thread a lot. I think it's not like super soft, but my favorite thing is that it stays together. Even at the end, it's not separating into chunks or anything. A green from Michael's, or Joann's I think also has Loops and Threads. This one, I kind of interchange this and the Hobby Lobby one. I find they're just about the same. There's nothing I've noticed that's incredibly different, but we'll see when we look a little bit closer. Next is the J&P coats. This one, it's pretty soft. It does have a tendency to fray a little bit more, I think, than the previous two. I think, as you can see, the last two were pretty similar in thickness. The black is much thicker. But it's like bending on me. We've got a smiley face going on. That's either a sign that you might be using different strings or that your knot tension is a little off, so you want to try with alphas to keep your knot tension just about the same. Alright, and then we've got last but not least. Now this guy, just sitting here, is already fraying, and I think that's my biggest problem with DMC. It's great. Like, if you want to pull this apart, it's going to be no problem. So if you're doing things, I don't know, cross stitch and stuff, sometimes you need to separate the strands, then that's great. I don't want my strands to separate though. One, the good thing with DMC is always so soft. All right, this is the finished product. It's actually cuter than I thought it would be. But just some details to look at. See, it's got this curve to it. You can tell if I turn it sideways more so. I also have this keychain here. This obviously is not the same thing, but if you see, it doesn't curve like that. It has, I used the same thread. It looks a little bit nicer. The knots are a little more even and distinct. I think it's a tie for the winner on this one between the Hobby Lobby, the Iris, and the Loops and Threads. We finished our first two experiments. All right, now we have one more. Fire. I'm joking. They don't let me have a lighter in here. Now it's the research stuff. So if you see me looking down, I have my lovely computer with some notes. So I'm going to be doing it based off of skeins, because skeins are basically the same measurement. It's like 8.75 meters, or I'll just tell you how many yards it is, because I'm not doing the math this instant. All of these prices are based off of what I was able to find for the Amazon, random Amazon kind, which is technically XLSFPY. That is 25 cents per skein. And the Iris is about 20 cents. I will explain that a little further. And Loops and Threads, which is at Michael's and Joann's, is about 17 cents. And then DMC varies probably the most greatly. But from the link that I'm going to have in the description, it was 55 cents, I believe. But then when you walk into like any craft store, they usually have a wall of just various DMC threads that you can get individually, which is usually the least cost effective. It's better if you bundle it. They also don't really give you discounts if you bundle it. The last is the J&P Coats and Clark. That, from the link that I found, was 15 cents. Is it easy to find? Is it accessible throughout the world? But for the first one, you kind of have to check on your own Amazon. But I think when we get to the results, no one's really going to want that one. For the Iris or the Hobby Lobby one, it comes, I couldn't find a link where you could get it delivered. The only things were like, pick it up. So if you don't have a Hobby Lobby near you, probably not going to be able to find it very well. So the link that I have in the description is actually my link. I get like really big packs of it in bulk. I ship internationally. If you would like to support the channel, That one's always a good one. Or you can go to Hobby Lobby and get your own. Some threads you can get in packs from Michaels. I did find they do some shipping. I don't know how international it is, but if you have Michaels or Joann's, I believe both of them sell loops and threads. So if you're able to go there or at least live in the US, you should be able to get it. International is iffy. And DMC is probably the most widely available embroidery floss, especially in the US. It kind of dominates, and I'm pretty sure you could probably find some brand similar in whatever area you are. J&P or Coates & Clark, which I think would very much be the most difficult to find. There's a link that I found from like another store that sells it, but it's now Coates & Clark. I can't promise that this is actually the same thing, because they've kind of adjusted their branding, and I know the one I have is old. Like, it says it costs like 5 cents. So yeah. And I know Walmart, when I was looking, had like really big packs of it. But in my experience, it's, if you are a thrifter and you go to a lot of secondhand stores, J&P and DMC are the two easiest ones to thrift. To review, our first test was water, and the winner of that was, for some reason, the Amazon one. The second was DMC. For the knotting test, it was a tie between the Loops and Threads and the Iris or Hobby Lobby brand. And then for price, I think J&P, Coates & Clark, if you can thrift it or find it at Walmart. As far as easily accessible, DMC totally wins. The winner is Iris. That's the one that I use consistently. It's not sponsored, it's just the one that I like the best. I use it for basically everything. I am using some DMC right now. I know overall, like, DMC is the most highly regarded. It just splits apart, and that's so horribly annoying. I have links down below. The Amazon links are affiliate links, so I'll get like a little kickback on those. All right, we're all done. We beat the embroidery floss, I guess. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more tutorials, I'll start putting out some alpha tutorials as well. If you wanted to learn how to make keychains, kind of like the one we made today, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, drop a comment with which, if there's a embroidery floss that you use that I didn't use in this video, or if there's one, if you have a favorite, drop down in the comments. Feel free to argue with me. Not liking DMC, kind of a controversial opinion in the friendship bracelet world.